So we have this strong belief that the SAP tool, especially the application that is very, very strong, is built around a data model which is allowing companies to do complex business. Many countries, many processes, and integrated. And SAP provides this data model which allows you to do very big things. Unfortunately, there are no tools to manage this data model. And we have a tool here that handles some of the complexity around master data. And this is what we want to share with you. So, the agenda is, we want to tell you, of course, why is master data important. I assume that everybody being here has some sort of interest in data quality and why we want to focus on this. Then we will give you an overview of what is this master data simplified, this MDS tool, all about. We'll give you YouTube videos and also a live demo to see what is this actually, what kind of tool is it. And then finally we'll also touch upon what about the other tools available, the NetWeaver MDM, the master data governance being launched with Enhancement Pack 5, what are the tools for data quality services, and how does that compare with MDS. Very objective evaluation by us, of course. And finally, some references using MDS. We have live customers since 2007, and I will share some of these with you. Okay, master data. Well, if I'm sitting in management and I'm looking at reports, they may look good. It probably builds upon a pretty shaky foundation. And sometimes even the people working here have fear of going to work even. I don't know, maybe. So what we normally say is that we want to focus on really the data quality. And data quality, I assume that across different industries and in different sectors there are different problems. Some highlights that we have seen in the past is a simple thing like a wrong campaign price. A wrong campaign price leads to dissatisfied customers. You need to do rebilling, credit notes. You need also maybe to rerun some of your things. You might even do overspending on your campaign budget. If you have inconsistent data between what your planned prices and your actual prices are, what you're going to see is, of course, inconsistency in what you're planning for and what you're actually achieving. Spend analysis, the inability to compare vendor groups, material groups, different items that you have, prevents you from actually doing good negotiations with your vendors. Version control, when you're procuring an item, you're actually sending out the wrong specification to your vendor or your subcontractor. So that gives you wrong inventory, a prolonged lead time for actually finishing your production or whatever. Could also be that you even have wrong billing data, lost revenue, the inability to actually produce an invoice because you don't have the price for the item. Error in lead times, resulting in overstocking or shortage in what you actually need, and which results then in poor capacity utilization, so that you actually don't reach your targets in terms of capacity. And simply wrong planning data, that you're planning the wrong lot sizes, you're planning to have the wrong item in the right place, or vice versa. Yeah? These data quality problems differ, of course, and I imagine that you have your own. Some may be these, there might be others. So we were faced with some of these challenges back in 2006 and 2007. And the case I'm going to show you now was the case of a customer. They were looking at traditional material master management. Who knows the material master in SAP? Yes. So you know that the material master maybe, it has more than 500 fields. You may use around 100, 120, I don't know. That's the typical scenario. And you have to go to every single screen, and you want to make sure that all the master data are maintained correctly. Now, the customer that we did our pilot implementation for, They have 61 locations. They have 9 production factories, 2 distribution centers, and 50 sales companies. So simply looking at the material master and counting the different fields used by some sort of grouping over here, and then you look at fields being technically global and technically local, you end up with 3,615 fields maintained for one item in 61 locations. And if you consider that you have frequent changes, that you want to introduce new items, that you want to destock the old items, that you want to change versions and so on, it's a lot of changes that you have to manage. Also, if you have fluctuating demand, you need to recategorize. Is this an A item? Do I want to put it in my list of preferred items that I can supply out of my distribution center? Or is this something that I only buy when I have an order? So these type of challenges were faced by one of our first customers. So what we did was, we said, let's look at the processes that you have. The way you sell, the way you produce, procure, stock, cost every single item, and let's describe the 5-7 different types of scenarios that you have. If you describe these scenarios, then you find out that, well, there may be different variants and exceptions, but typically you can group it into a few, 3 to 7. 3 to 7 different ways of selling. You can also then define rules. Well, my finished goods needs to be maintained like this, my spare parts like this, my semi-finished goods like this, and then you define these rules. And then finally, you map your dependencies. If you know it's a procured item, you also need to create the info record, and you need to maintain the source list. If it's also a customer, it may be part of a customer hierarchy, so you need to create an additional customer master. And when you change something, it has to be in sync. And one of the very good examples of why SAP is very good is that you can manage all these data, but you cannot make sure that your dependencies are actually managed. So it may have one setting in one organizational unit and a different in the other. So what we have done is that we have built a tool on top of SAP using SAP tools, standard tools. So we try to reduce the complexity by introducing what we call locations and location types, location profiles. We introduce the 4 objects: material master, info record, customer, and supplier. And then we introduce subtypes. Instead of the SAP technical, Wert, Halb, Roh, Verb, und so weiter, then we introduce business-oriented types, which could be related to your product groups or your types of customers or whatever. And then behind the scenes, we map it to the technical SAP type. And then we define global data and local data. And we remove all of the other stuff. And then we have these profiles. So I have how do I deliver, how do I make, and how do I plan. And behind this one profile, I define a number of fields. Yes? By doing this, our pilot customer did a grouping of these processes, and some of the things that were actually, from a business point of view, global, but technically local, we introduced a global profile. So they would only have to maintain it once. And then by reducing it, we achieved a reduction in 94% of fields to be maintained. So basically what we do, the core of MDS is rules, dependencies, and profiles. So rules for types of products. Instead of using the typical SAP terms, we actually use business terms. So it would be your product program, your types of customers. Yeah? And then we build rules around them, around what are my allowed values, what are the dependencies, and from where do I go. And then dependencies to other locations and to other object types. And finally the profiles, which actually defines how I can operate my sales, my procurement, my inventory, etc. Out of this, you reduce the time spent, you increase your governance, you assign ownership to every single field, and you build on workflow so that people can actually see what they are supposed to be doing. And out of this, you increase your quality. Financial reporting, operational, etc. Master data governance actually takes some of the principles of MDM, and then what they do is by Enhancement Pack 5, you actually designate your ERP system as being a central data hub. And from this central data hub, then you do duplicate checking, workflows, but on the basic data, not on the full level of detail. So that includes also chart of accounts, cost centers, etc. So data quality services is built basically as an ETL tool for business warehouse environments to extract and then to enrich your data before you load it. So it's very much for IT projects, for data cleansing when you have a new project. It's not really for operational data maintenance. I think one interesting story is our pilot customer. We went live in 2007, and even though you're reading, I hope you can still hear me. What they did was that they actually transformed the way they were using master data. When the crisis hit, they could actually see that they would have to destock some of the items they had in all the sales companies. So they would have to quickly change the stocking point in the supply chain. Imagine you have to do that on 50 locations with 120,000 item numbers. Yeah? So basically using what we call an ABC analysis. They do an ABC analysis, and they were looking at the sales pattern. Is it selling regularly, bumpy, or slow? So not much. And then the combination of the ABC, the value classification of the item, together with the sales pattern, they actually decided what is my delivering plant, what is my stocking point, what is my expected lead time out to the customer, etc. And then they use these two fields, the ABC classification and the other one, which we use the MRP group for, to control the profiles, setting lot sizes, MRP procedures, lead times, etc. And then they changed all the data and started changing the way they operated once they had to reduce their working capital. Actually, Neofisk has gone one step more in the sense that they actually only validate 20 central fields. They get 20 central fields from the external suppliers when they have updates, prices, and lead times. And then what they do is that they look at the fields, make sure they're correct, and then based on the rules, it generates an item in 60 locations in 60 seconds without typing in, because the rules do full enrichment in all locations. So, what is MDS? It's a simplified creation and maintenance, including mass changes. It's having these rules, dependencies, and profiles, which actually, in business terms, lets you define how you want to use your master data. It ensures a high quality. By using the rules and the business workflow, we can actually ensure governance on every single field. And we are covering material master, purchasing info record, customer and vendor. And finally, we have patented this product in the US. And it is a real product, meaning that we provide it as a package. And when you customize something, it's not hampering with anything within the SAP database. It's handled solely in a separate namespace, so we wouldn't have to worry about updates from SAP. We are compatible backwards to 4.7.